Hey.
So we're doing it anyway, even if it's a bad idea. It's a really bad idea today.
My brain's mush. I just now had coffee.
Yeah, I've been
It's
doing
still not
way
getting any better.
I'm going way too many directions today. So anyway, the Bernardo Kastrup is probably mostly on my mind. And he created a paper that Mandible is going over in detail. Pretty much he's got like 6 parts already, I think. Something like that. And that paper is entitled, let me see here, Analytic Idealism. It consists of a whole bunch of mini papers. And it's called Analytic Idealism, a conscious, oh God, why can't I remember the name of it? It's too long.
A consciousness-only ontology?
Yeah, that's it. Consciousness-only ontology. So anyway, I should link that. And if you search for that in Google, just the way I have it here, you'll find PDFs that you can download for free. So it's available generally, which is a good thing. Trying to get that in the description right now. Anyway, so what I'm searching for here is an argument. I'm trying to find his argument, and I've been looking at a whole bunch of idealists across the interwebs, trying to find their argument. And the best I can find is that their argument is physicalism is bad, physicalism is dumb, physicalism can't explain consciousness. That seems to be the core argument, that physicalism can't explain consciousness. Now, when creationists say evolution is dumb, evolution can't explain how life started, or how life, how species change one from another, or whatever, right?
Or it can't explain irreducible complexity.
Right. Is there any difference? There really isn't any difference. So, and he's got a part 6 here where he goes through what I wanted to focus on first is self-transcendence correlates with brain function impairment. I should probably lay it out a little bit. Okay, Bernardo Kastrup believes that the entire universe is consciousness, that all of the things that we see out in the universe are us viewing universal consciousness as if we're a third person, okay? And now, if I were to look at your consciousness according to Bernardo, Scott, I would have to cut open your head and look at your neurons. And if I looked at your neurons, like if I looked at the neurons in your limbic system, I could see you being angry. That basically, I don't want to get into the uncharted strawmanning his view waters, and he dresses it up considerably in some much better language than that. Mm-hmm. But basically, that's what he said over and over again. He said, if I look at your experience as a third person, then I am going to see neurons, and I'm going to see a brain. That's what your third person experience looks like. Now, that's kind of what physicalism would say in a way, right? Kind of, but kind of in a stranger way. Like, how would I look? Like, for an idealist to look at a brain and believe that was conscious, that was your consciousness, right? He's created a hard problem of matter. He's turned a hard problem of consciousness into a hard problem of matter. Mm-hmm. because the matter doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for me to cut open your brain while you're angry. Suppose I could do that, put a window in your skull and look at your limbic system, and I would see the neurons moving around and I could chart them and all that stuff, and I'd say, oh, there's Scott being angry, right? It's kind of what a physicalist would claim in a way, but
Yeah, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
he's claiming that I'm not really seeing neurons at all, that I'm not seeing matter at all, that what I'm seeing is your conscious experience. That's what I'm seeing. And to me, it looks like neurons. So when I look at, okay, so he's claiming a universal consciousness, and then inside of it, all of the animals that are conscious have basically a filter called the brain. The brain filters out universal consciousness and just gives us a very, very tiny bird's eye or human eye view of one particular part of universal consciousness. So that is Bernardo Kastrup's analytic idealism. Do I have anything wrong, Mandible? I'm going to have to invite that goddamn.
Yeah. But the definition of brain includes neurons, right? Like, without neurons, you don't have a brain.
Right.
You need neurons to form the brain, as well as the nervous system that hooks into the brain and informs the brain of input from the body.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't give that. If your description is accurate as to what Kastrup is saying, I don't get what he's getting at. I don't see the difference. He's just saying neurons equal consciousness, not proteins and amino acids that that other cells are made up of, or that somehow this particular configuration of proteins and amino acids is special and is consciousness. But consciousness isn't reducible to the material of proteins and organelles or whatever else is in a neuron.
Right. So
this
anyway,
is incoherent to me. It's hard to make sense of.
Okay, so this is the universe or the cosmos. We'll call it the cosmos, right? So the cosmos is like a huge mental process. There's one unified. So this is a unified mental process that's happening that creates everything, including us. Unified mental process. And hang on a second. We got a lot of time, right? So don't have to hurry. A UMP. So this is his UMP, right? His UMP. And inside of the UMP, there are these disassociated personalities. And he supports this with the dissociative identity disorder, right? I think that's DID. So there's you, there's Scott, and there's Mike, and there's James Apperson. We're going to call it James Apperson because he's definitely dissociated personality. Okay, so we have all those things. And he's saying that basically our mental is it's a part of this unified consciousness. So the unified consciousness is having the same experiences as all of us all at once. But then we don't, because our brains are filters. So our brains are powerful filters, and they filter out all of this consciousness like I'm filtering you out, I'm filtering the stars out, everything. I'm filtering it out and turning it into what looks like matter. So to me, inside of this, it looks like matter. That's my conscious experience of it, right? So he's claiming that the brain is a filter, a powerful filter. Stuff goes in. We got a little funnel, and basically all the stuff goes in the funnel, and it gets filtered out, and then we have like a flask where we're going to collect our conscious experience down here. And so anyway, the brain is a filter. Okay. So now he supports that by referencing a bunch of stuff on dissociative identity disorder.
Dissociative identity disorder. Yes.
Dissociative identity, yeah, not dissociative. Okay, dissociative. Okay, so that's how he supports it. And then he goes on to support it with a couple of scientific papers on brain damage, on mediums who are writing while in a trance, on people that are meditating, on people that have had brain damage of various sorts and ended up being savants of some sort. They can all of a sudden calculate better than anybody else, or psychedelics. Now, when he talks about psychedelics, he points to this paper by Carhart Harris, and he explains that what they found out, and they were so shocked, and they just can't explain it. What they found out about psychedelics is cancel that less of the brain lights up. The brain lights up less and uses less energy when you're on psychedelics than when you're not. Yet, you have this expansive experience of the universe, life, and everything while you're on psychedelics. And he points to this paper by Carhart Harris. Okay. And I took a look at this paper by Carhart Harris, which I don't have up on the screen right now because I'm an asshole. Okay. There's a Carhart Harris paper. The Entropic Brain, a Theory of Conscious States Informed by Neuroimaging Research with Psychedelic Drugs. Now, this paper is not about that. This paper isn't about Carhart Harris saying, oh, I was so shocked that the brain didn't light up and that the brain has less activity and less cerebral blood flow under psychedelics than in a normal waking state. Okay? That's not what the paper's about. The paper's about the entropic brain, which is an entirely different thing. It's about consciousness bordering between chaos and order. And that's what the entropic brain is about. Carhart Harris points out that the default mode network in the brain under psychedelics becomes a lot quieter and darkens and uses less energy and less blood than when you're not on psychedelics. Mm-hmm. Now, what they found out is not that the brain basically operates less. They found out that different parts of the brain operate less and more. Like your cerebral cortex may be lit up like a Christmas tree because there's a whole lot of intercommunication going on in your, what do we got, pragmatic crystal? Yeah, let's try to pay attention to chat a little bit on this. So anyway, this is the kind of thing that he backs up his argument with, right? That it's possible for these disassociated states to exist, number one, because we know that from people that have dissociative identity disorder. Number two, he points to a bunch of papers where they found surprising differences where certain brain states or brain conditions, excuse me, lit up the brain less than other, than normal waking conditions.
So you took a drug and it messed with your brain a certain way, okay?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When you go under, he explained near-death experience, right? Your brain is barely operating at all. You have very little oxygen, very little is going on. And then you come out of the near-death experience and you say, oh my God, I saw my grandma, my grandpa, my uncles, my cousins, everybody was there. We all had a party. My brain should have lit up like a Christmas tree. Well, NDEs are a whole nother subject, right, as to what's happening there. So anyway, this is how he's supporting his argument by cherry picking this particular paper.
Reminds me of somebody I know. His initials are Sal and Cordova.
I know.
The way that, or even our Brazilian douche canoe fellow.
Yeah.
The way that they appeal to papers, but don't appeal based on
Mandible,
a wide knowledge of the paper, just cherry picking.
Oh, so pragmatic crystal found the entropic brain. Entropic brain, a theory of conscious states. Yeah, okay. It's, yeah. Carhart Harris put the paper.
Pragmatic Crystal is kind of like one of those fast guns,
He is
old
fast.
westerns.
Quick like a fucking bunny.
Yeah, with those links, man, he'll just woo-hoo.
Damn. Can't keep up to these kids today. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the description as well. Anyway, this paper is a tome. I mean, this is incredible. It goes through a great deal of information, which I'm putting together myself still. Post-infusion change invariance of intranetwork synchrony over time. And they're showing under psilocybin, they're showing that there is a whole lot of intranetwork synchrony over time. It shows a lot higher, okay? Whereas the placebo, which is in gray here, is not as high. So what is he talking about? That's a part of the brain that lights up like a Christmas tree. But now if you look at the default mode network, which is what he concentrates on, and I think I linked a few, hang on a second here. I cannot read this. Why can I not read this on my screen?
Yeah.
I've got it over on my, I got to put it on a different computer. Okay. Minimize free energy surprise, Carl Friston's free energy principle, maximum number of metastable or transiently stable states, Tagloni. Oh my God. Okay, Chris Moore, Scott Duke. The only way I can see this working is when you map out the surroundings by echolocation or figuring out G from point A to B while physically impaired. What is he saying?
I'm not sure. I was hoping you could figure it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. Okay. The only way I can see this third point of view working is when you map out the surroundings via echolocation or figuring out G from point A to point B while physically impaired. I'm not sure where you're going, Chris.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, Chris. Just elaborate, please. Or we'll put out the link and later, and you can elaborate. Come on and elaborate.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Propagated through the system. I'm trying to find the points where Carhart Harris actually suggests that there's some bringing forth. Okay, there's Huxley. Here is without psychedelic drugs, it's virtually impossible to bring the core phenomena of psychoanalysis. Okay, so Carhart Harris makes a case for Freud and Freud's ego, that maybe there's more to look into. You know, we've kind of, like psychologists, kind of rejected that. And I think they've since become a little more fond of, Carhart Harris is becoming a little more fond of this.
Well, I don't necessarily think you have to go back to Freud necessarily, but maybe the way the brain is conceptualized or compartmentalized or modeled, maybe a three division model with a simplified purpose like ego, id, superego, for the morals, id for the more animalistic, impulsive drives. Maybe that's appropriate, but then again, I don't know that it's worth going back to a totally speculative, non-scientific approach like Freud was.
Yeah. However, there are some parts of it that are worth saving. That's what Carhart Harris is all about. Now, okay, the DMN, the default mode network, it's an area in your temporal lobes, your parietal lobes, in your hippocampus, in the thalamus. And what that does is it uses, number one, it uses more energy than any other part of the brain. And so it's extremely costly metabolically, right? And it's something that's always active in us. In normal waking hours, it's very active. It allows us it's the default mode that we're in when we're not particularly thinking about anything or focusing on anything. We're in this default mode. And that mode tells us where we are in space and time, what we are, what we think we are. It contains our identity, our ego, our Freudian ego. So that's why she connects us with Freud, right?
Yeah.
The DM. Well, under psilocybin and LSD, the DMN gets turned almost not almost off, but turned way down. The higher the dose, the more down it is. Now, what about ego dissolution under psychedelics, right? Ego dissolution, your ego goes away when you take enough psychedelics. Your DMN is what keeps the construct of ego and keeps your construct of self working as it does on a daily basis. So, whatever type of person you are, you're going to have a sense of who you are, what you are, and how you should respond and react to everything. And that's all going on in the default mode network. When you take psychedelics, that shit dissolves. And what you end up with is this cortical layer going nuts, interconnecting with all other different areas of your brain. And you no longer know that you are a something. And you no longer feel like an ego, so you have ego dissolution.
Mm-hmm.
So in this paper, Carhart Harris has showed very, very clearly why psychedelics will cause this ego dissolution and this feeling of spiritual experience. And this paper is extremely deep and extremely detailed, very, very worthwhile. And he just gets one thing out of it, that basically the brain filter. Oh my God. What is that dog doing? Okay. The one thing that he takes away from it is that the brain filter is operating less. There's less brain going on, less thinking, less physical stuff going on in your brain. Therefore, you're more connected to the universal consciousness. That's his whole takeaway. He does nothing in terms of going through this paper and supporting that case, which is what really, really irritates me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Failure to
over
support and failure for your references to support is there ought to be a police department that writes tickets for that.
Yeah. So anyway, what Carhart Harris's paper is about is entropy and this new idea of entropy in brain states. That in our normal waking state, we're operating right at the border between chaos and order, and it's a chaos theory of cognition basically, and it's gained a lot of popularity in the last 10 years. And what happens is if it gets perturbed, and then you dip in and out of order and chaos, and then you settle back down to this default mode, where you're just operating business as usual. Something will happen, perturbs it, somebody cuts you off in traffic, a whole bunch of shit happens, stuff like that. And this paper is all about that, and she has written a number of other papers that are about that. And you cannot in any way get from this paper that the brain is a fucking filter, filtering out universal consciousness. That's my point.
Could it be that there's another paper that Kastrup read?
This is the one he referenced.
Yeah, he referenced that one. Maybe he referenced the wrong paper, and the actual paper is somewhere in his bibliography.
No.
Okay.
I've read a number of papers on psychedelics, right?
I'm just trying to be charitable.
I know you're trying to be charitable,
Okay.
but I'm telling you no.
All right.
Did I say that forcefully?
You did.
No.
You said it very forcefully.
No. There's been a whole lot of studies where they found surprising decreases and increases in the bold signal, which is the signal that they use to tell how much blood your particular parts of your brain are using, and they found very differences. So if you okay, now this is gonna shock you, Scott.
Uh-oh. Okay. I'm rubbing my temples in anticipation.
If I scan your brain right now that you're not on shrooms, right?
I am not on
I will get I'll get a certain brain scan. If I feed you a couple of pounds of psychedelic mushrooms, that brain scan is going to look totally different.
Oh my gosh, that's shocking. Oh, really?
Oh yeah, that's shocking. Shocking shit. Yeah.
Take drugs, brain different. Take
and
what is brain different?
What does difference mean? Difference means that some things are turned down and other things are turned up. And all of the papers that I've read, Some things are turned down and other things are turned up.
Yeah.
There's no shutting off. Your fucking brain is not shutting off. You're not having a near-death experience. You're having a spiritual experience because your default mode network is being shut down, and the other parts of your cortex are lit up like a Christmas tree. So that's what's going on. So anyway, have I made my point?
You made your point clear, sir.
Made my point.
But we need
clear.
to ask our kind listeners if they understand the point.
Have I made my point clear? That you can't do philosophy. I mean, you can't create a metaphysics of existence, the entire universe, starting with a shitty reference to one paper claiming that the brain is shut down when you do mushrooms. No. You have not supported it, Bernardo Kastrup. You need to go further. You need to read the entire paper, and you need to tell me where you're getting what you're getting and how you're using that to support your way out there hypothesis that the whole universe is mental stuff, and we are dissociative identity states inside of it. And that if we take enough mushrooms, I should be able to read your mind, Scott.
Wow. You don't want to read my mind.
I know. But afraid.
Yeah, you don't. That's just an activity that no scientist should ever be interested in experimenting on.
If your brain is off and you did in fact have any experience during the time your brain was off, seeing as how there would be nothing to show, what if anything would show that you did what? Okay, what if anything would show that you did have such an experience? Okay. If your brain is off and you did in fact have an experience, okay, there's nothing. There's no way to empirically show this. The only thing we can do when the person wakes up is ask them what happened to them while they were sleeping. Now, while they were sleeping, they weren't recording memories. Okay, but memories were being recorded somewhere along the line, maybe prior to the NDE or while they were waking up. That's when memories are being recorded. And we know that. We know that no goddamn memories are being made while your heart is stopped and your brain is in a very, very low metabolic state. And there's no way to empirically prove that. Because they're claiming that we cannot look at the brain and tell what you're experiencing. That's the basis of the idealist claim, that the brain is not physical, that mind is not physical, right? Not the brain.
Okay.
Mind.
All right. Here's a question.
Okay.
Just to kind of look at Kastrup's model from a few directions.
Yep.
Does this universal conscious mind have a memory?
I don't know. He never talks about that.
And if then wouldn't that make it possible
Well,
to have memories once your brain is turned back, quote unquote, turned back on? You would just filter out the memories of the universal conscious mind.
Well, he has, see, the problem he's got is that, okay, so we got like right here, we got a table, right? So this is your kitchen table, very badly drawn. It kind of looks like the letter pi. Anyway, your kitchen table, right? So your kitchen table persists through time. So he could claim that was a memory because your kitchen table is obviously all mental. Okay? So right now, there is a big, huge wall between us and the table, right? So Scott, James, and I cannot see the table. So the table is not in our dissociative state, right? But he is going to have to remember the table because if James walked in a room and saw the table, came back, Scott walked in, saw the table, came back, I walked in, saw the table, came back, the table would be in one spot. So he could claim that was memory. But he also, because, well, he could call it a memory. I mean, it doesn't have, he could claim it went away, but he doesn't do that. He claims that objects are persistent. So if objects are persisting, then he would claim that would be memory, I think. Though he never addresses memory in his papers that I know of. Mandible, does he address memory anyway? You cannot use science in your establishment of ontology metaphysics, so I don't have yeah, okay, you're wrong, Mandible, but That's a point of disagreement between Mandible and I, which is kind of interesting. Mandible tries to throw out all previous commitments, presuppositions, all knowledge, and I claim that you can't do that. Number one, you're going to fail. Read Kant if you don't believe me, and Critique of Pure Reason. And number two, that is exactly where you should start with all of your presuppositions and all that you feel that you know right now. And I, as an adult, start with all that I know about science, and that's where I start my metaphysics. So we have a difference in how we approach metaphysics. So, but anyway, where were we? Okay, how do blind people navigate, or me with cerebral palsy move around by creating a mental map of the environment by figuring out what works and what doesn't using our senses. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what your point is, Chris, but yeah, we know that you can do that. In fact, people that have blind sight, that can't see at all, they have no conscious experience of the visual, can actually navigate, and they can learn to trust their navigation because your visual system has more than one path into the brain, and the one in your occipital lobe, your primary consciousness is your primary visual cortex is the one that we are conscious of. That's what we're used to being conscious of. But there's another sense that we have through the superior colliculus and a few other elements of the brain that we don't normally make conscious or include as part of our consciousness. So there's that. So blind sight people can navigate without being able to see. They can walk around an object. They've tested this over and over again. It's called blind sight. Okay. Number two, if you're impaired in any way, you can develop different neural networks to navigate and to move around. And I'm not sure, maybe I missed your point entirely. I don't know. What else is going on? You need your ontology to settle what you mean by science and what aspect of your ontology is used for. It is circular. You're right, Mandible, but it's circular like a network, not like a circle. So, fuck you, Mandible. Anyway, reject. Okay, to be fair, nobody has to care about anything they don't want to care about. But I did do science to confirm the table exists. Predictions tested by repeated empirical tests. Yeah, it's how we navigate the world, right? It's what we believe in. So, you still with me, Scott, or your connection going to hell?
I'm still with you.
You're still with me.
I'm
Very
still
good.
with you.
Okay. Now, so that's just some preliminaries. Number one, in every case where he has talked about the brain being a filter and he has provided a paper, I have pulled the paper up and I found that he just skimmed over the top of it, just like a creationist, and he didn't dig into it, and he is not making his case. If Mandible, if you or anyone else knows where he actually read one of these papers and made his case more clear, let me fucking know, because I cannot find his argument, right? All I find is fluff, and I found a whole chapter on fluff. And I am not happy. I want an argument. I want a goddamn real argument, right?
Yeah, it's hard to have a debate when there's no real argument to debate. You just end up griping about details.
Yeah, okay. Cerebral hypoxia also gives you this feeling of floating in space and global consciousness and all of that stuff. Pilots having G-force loss of consciousness or G-loc. He makes a case there, right? He goes through there. That is bullshit. People that start to pass out having what feels like an ego loss, spiritual experience, why does that surprise you? That when your brain starts to shut down, that you would have an experience of loss of where you are in space and time, and you would start to feel like you were no longer a thing, a particular animal at this place in time. And he goes through and he offers, what other examples? Trance-induced impairment. His name, Perez 2012. put a bunch of people there was a neuroimaging study of people. They'd go into a trance state and they would start to write, and the writing was fairly complex. But the parts of the brain that are normally involved in thinking about and putting together coherent writing were not on. They were impeded, shut down, and he makes a big case of that. And does it surprise you that somebody would start writing trance-like documents about, or develop a skill where you could write when you were in a somewhat crazy mode, right?
Uh-huh.
These people are mediums. They're trying to convince you that they're communicating with spirits.
And that the spirits are riding through you, yeah.
Right. And they've learned something like, okay, speaking in tongues. When people become good at speaking in tongues in church, they will sometimes say the same things over and over again or whatever, but they will come up with this rather convincing thing, convincing you that they're actually saying something significant, but they're just doing garbage. And I'm guessing that the same parts of their brain are shut down as in these people with these mediums that are writing. And there again, you totally fail to dig into the paper and show anything. Chemical impairment, Strassman, Griffiths. Let's see, what do we got here?
This is a little rabbit trail, but I remember years ago seeing all sorts of sociology papers in journals back when you had to go to the library to look stuff up in journals about the speaking in tongues phenomenon. And I've always wondered, like, people who started going to a church at a certain age and they began speaking in tongues, thinking it was, a spiritual gift, something special that between them and God. And then they go and read all these sociology papers. If they kept the practice of speaking in tongues or just kind of let it go to the wayside, because knowing that, oh my gosh, all these other cultures do speaking in tongues, and you can actually see that people are teaching one another their own dialect of speaking in tongues, amongst these traditions and stuff. I'd sure like to talk to a bunch of people. It's a niche group of people, but I wonder what effect reading things that that kind of answer any possible questions you might have about, like, speaking in tongues or near-death experiences, how much it causes people to tone down on that kind of practice.
Oh, I was pulling something up and I listened to everything except the last thing you said.
I said I just wonder if reading the scientific information about such things causes that behavior to be reduced.
Oh, yeah.
For people who are practitioners or believers.
I don't think reading anything will reduce their belief. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to talk to a bunch of people who, like, maybe somehow went from their Christian conservatism into sociology or something, and then that became their study.
Yeah. Anyway, I just I wanted to Deconverted Man provided this paper here or article. And psychiatrists probe what happens in the brain when people speak in tongues. Colleagues recruited 5 people, and let's see, the findings make sense. Oh, Newberg. And Newberg studies people that are in spiritual and meditative states, and he uses brain scans to do that. So Andrew Newberg, I mentioned him a couple times. He's the guy that does this stuff. The findings make sense, says Newberg. Okay, part of the brain. Another notable increased activity in the parietal region, the part of the brain that takes sensory information and tries to create a sense of self. So anyway, so that's just the opposite. So speaking in tongues, apparently, part of the default mode network is more active. And anyway, that's worth looking into. Glossolalia. Related site, do they have a paper associated with this? Tongues and mind, brains and behavior. Anyway, I linked this in the description for anybody who cares. Okay. So in an article, this is Bernardo Kastrup in his analytical idealism thesis, basically, and I think some of this was his PhD thesis. He says in an article he wrote for Scientific American, neuroscientist Christoph Koch, 2012, expressed his surprise at these results. Now, I cannot find that article because I am not going to pay Scientific American. I'm mad at them. Okay. But if anybody has that article, please try to get it to me. Anyway, Carhart Harris, for instance, reported, quote, only decreases in cerebral blood flow under the influence of a psychedelic. Okay. Take a look at where Carhart Harris uses the word decreased in her paper. Okay. Decreases were localized to high-level association cortices, including key regions of the default mode network. We already fucking knew that, Bernardo, right? We've known that for 15 years or more, that the default mode network shuts down under psychedelics. It does not say that the entire brain shuts down, basically. I have belabored this point. I like laboring points and belaboring. So anyway, so this is bullshit, and I don't know what Christoph Koch is a physicalist, and he is one of the leading people in consciousness research right now. And he said this thing that he expressed surprise. Well, if you told me that the brain shuts down on psilocybin, I would be surprised, but that's not the whole story. The whole fucking brain doesn't shut down. Not what's happening. Default mode network shuts down. Nothing shuts the fuck up, right? Chemical impairment. Physical damage. Then he goes on and talks about savants. And then discussion. Physicalism is wrong. Okay, he says a potential explanation for this is that brain function impairment could disproportionately affect inhibitory neural processes, thereby generating or bringing into awareness other neural processes associated with self-transcending experiences. There are, however, problems with this explanation, and he goes on not to detail any real problems with this explanation, because what he just said is so simplistic when it comes to neuroscience that it's just silly, Bernardo. It's silly. You shouldn't have said what you said. Self-transcendence must be accompanied by an increase in the metabolism associated with neural correlates of experience. He talks about that in his paper, Kastrup 2016. I will go ahead and look at that paper and we'll talk about it next time. I think I'm going to open up the room. But first of all,
we have an interesting comment from Mandible.
Where are we?
Look on the screen.
Seems to me that science have become some kind of religion for atheists, as if it is magic. Yeah, you're right. It is.
I think he's trying to stir up the room a little.
Yes. You're right. It is my religion. I have faith in it. It's my obsession, my religion, my belief. I believe it is magic. So all that you said is correct. What's your fucking point? You got a fucking point?
Yeah, and I'm not going to turn to my fifth grade Sunday school teacher to find out about neurology. So I don't know what place that comment has, nor will I turn to my the most recent pastor I had before I deconverted, because his was a coaching degree, a physical education degree, and I don't think he knows anything about neuroscience or consciousness. Maybe a little bit about philosophy, I don't know. But so anyway, yeah, I don't see turning to science, especially to find out, to check, the references of somebody who quoted a scientific paper is a problem.
Okay. Nerdy rodent takes the bait. Speaking of rodents, I have zombie slippers. And I found a mouse. My cat was staring into my zombie slippers last night, and I shook them, and a mouse jumped out of them.
It was a zombie mouse,
That
obviously.
ain't, well, I could have put those slippers on, and
You
both
could.
me and the mouse would have become very, very upset.
You would have gotten a zombie mouse bite
Yeah,
and become a zombie yourself.
right. Okay, you ready to have your mind blown? It's 2 minutes 56 seconds. And
Sure.
you can throw the link out at any time, but this is from the Essentia Foundation. Bernardo Kastrup is the managing or chief director of this foundation. And this is matter but a superficial appearance, which is something that that really pisses me off. That really just really gets me going when somebody says this, but let's hear what they say. Ooh, oh, music. Ooh. Change the world.
If two things are kept completely isolated from each other, they cannot influence one another, right? The world's smartest scientists are actually saying they can. We're going to do a little magic trick with these two. Alice and Bob. They both get one half of a deck of cards. Alice takes the red cards, starts shuffling them, and gets on a plane. Bob stays behind, shuffling the black cards. On the other side of the planet, after an extra shuffle for good measure, Alice finally looks at the red card that's on top of her deck. What if I told you that the same black card is guaranteed to be on top of Bob's deck, despite the two of them having no contact whatsoever? Good trick, right? In fact, it isn't a trick. It's not magic. It's quantum mechanics. Science has shown this is what actually happens.
No, science has not shown that. Science has not shown that if you get on a plane, Bob and Alice, they're on a plane with two different decks of cards. Science has not shown that they're going to draw the same goddamn card. That is called a magic trick. Okay? Science has shown non-localization in quantum mechanics. It does not translate to his little example, so he's fucking lying right there.
Why don't you finish the video?
What's that? I will. Oh, midnight. Midnight.
Yes.
Oh my God, and I can hear you.
Wow. Yeah, and he hasn't like left the broadcast yet.
I'm on mobile, so maybe that's why. My PC is still booting up. So
Okay,
we won't know whether it works on Chrome yet, but probably not. But yes, hello.
Yeah, now that I can hear you, I'm having my doubts.
About what?
Nothing. Nothing. Okay, we're going to play the rest of the video.
Happens not with playing cards, of course, but with the tiniest pieces of matter.
Right.
If two material particles, say A and B, are shot in opposite directions, what one scientist chooses to measure about particle A instantaneously influences what the other sees when he observes particle B, even if the
I think that's a lie, too. All they know is that there's experiments that show this non-localization happening. It doesn't show that when you measure one, it somehow knows that you measured that one.
I mean, are we forgetting about quantum entanglement?
That
Like,
this
I
is
feel
what
I feel like this video they didn't even mention
that's what
that's how it happens.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about is quantum entanglement.
Yeah, but he didn't mention the word, so it's kind of it loses the point that he's making.
Right. Okay.
the particles are at opposite ends of the universe. Imagine that. Simply looking at something at one end of the universe can directly influence something at the other end, with no material connection between the two. Scientists have taken every precaution you can imagine to rule out communication between the scientists or the particles A and B. No cheating, and yet the observation of one influenced the results of the other.
Okay, so if science ruled all this stuff out, how did they show that the observation of one influences the other? All they showed is that this is what they found.
Who the fuck is this person?
I don't know. Who's that person?
You know, the person you're watching.
Oh, it's Essentia Foundation. Bernardo Kastrup runs this thing, and this is just somebody they got to do a voiceover. So
You're basically a quantum woo kind of
yeah, this is
website /
Yeah.
foundation.
This is also looking for Bernardo Kastrup's argument. This is also one of his arguments. He just says non-localization. Yeah, okay, there's something spooky going on in physics, but that can be explained in a number of ways with a whole bunch of new physics theories that we've come upon in the last 20 years, and it doesn't have anything to do with, oh, if I observe this, somehow I affect something across the universe where somebody else is observing something. No, that hasn't been shown.
This prediction of quantum mechanics existed for decades. Many physicists, Albert Einstein included, had their doubts about this wild theory, but a series of compelling experiments, starting all the way back in the 1970s, has shown it to be true. So what does this mean? Recently, we've reached an incredible conclusion. What we call the physical or material world has no standalone existence. Instead,
Nope, that isn't what physicists have concluded. I don't know. You may have concluded that. I don't understand where you pulled that out of your ass.
Well, since he does metaphysics, he must be a physicist.
Oh, yeah.
it's a superficial image in the mind of an observer of a deeper, mysterious reality. As such, matter only comes into existence upon being observed. It's not really there until you look. Yeah, try to get your head around that one. So not only our science, but also our
No
culture
thanks.
and civilization at large stand to be fundamentally changed by this realization in the years to come. Perhaps this sounds far-fetched, but you can find out for yourself. You just have to look first.
Speed, you're torturing me with this.
Yep, we're done.
But so that means that midnight doesn't exist
Yeah,
because I have no way of observing him.
right. You got to look at them.
Well, of course I exist, bucko. Here I
But
am, baby.
But I'm not observing you. You can't come into existence. Chris, I think you're having some trouble
You're
with
observing my avatar and my voice. Therefore, I exist.
Oh, my. Anyway, this non-locality, okay, shows us that there's something that we have to understand about space and time and the geometry of space-time, which we fucking know, because we don't know about the Big Bang, exactly what was going on around that point, right? And there's the hologram universe ideas, which also are not what you might think they are, or not what they sound like. They're theories of basically a different kind of geometry projecting space-time. If that is the case, there's no reason why non-locality couldn't be a fact. Non-locality does not affect physicalism at all. It has no effect on it. It simply affects the idea that we know exactly what's happening with space-time. There may be, like, okay, if there was a wormhole in space-time between two different particles, like a little tiny wormhole, that would explain it. Still physics. Doesn't fucking affect physicalism. I don't know what they're talking about. Chris, are you with us? Are you having trouble with the goddamn restream? You and Midnight ought to get a room. Can't hear you. Damn it. Oh, let's see. Scientific results cannot be true. Oh, Mandible. Stop it with the anti-science stuff. You need knowledge to do science, you derive a conclusion. Right, you need knowledge to do science. No problem. Anyway, well, guys, I guess Chris is not going to be able to talk because there's something wrong with Restream.
Well, that sucks because I was wanting him to get a chance to clarify what he was bringing up.
Yeah, I wish you guys could give me more information about what's going wrong, or maybe contact Restream, because I'm going to have to dump Restream and go back to StreamYard if this keeps happening. And I would like to have something to say to them, because if they knew what the problem was, maybe they could fix it. Number one, Chris, you have to have Chrome running. You can't be using Firefox.
But wasn't Midnight having trouble on Chrome?
Yeah, Midnight was having trouble in Chrome, so I don't
Man.
know. That's not
Man,
the
oh man.
man, oh man. Anyway, so that's enough for the day. We did. How long did that take? How long have we been going? Oh shit, we've been going too long. 55
About an
minutes.
hour. About an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just belabored the point that Kastrup is not properly representing papers on psychedelics, and I can make a very good case for that all
That's
day
right.
long.
I don't think you can be accused of straw manning.
Right.
And if you're accused, you can't be accused of straw manning. You might be accused of misunderstanding. But then again, can't we all?
We didn't exist for ages.
Therefore, there wasn't a universe.
Yeah, well, okay, Kastrup gets around that deconverted man by claiming there's a universal mind that basically does all of existence. Chris, I apologize. Restream is being an asshole. I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing.
If you have mobile, join Restream on mobile.
Yeah. What the hell? What are they doing? I'm going to have to write them a letter. It's just that I had
Write them
nothing
a
to...
very angry letter. Be a Karen. Make yourself heard. I want to talk to your manager.
Because I'm paying them. Oh, yeah. I talked to the manager. Yeah. Lucy
So,
used
Scott, how have you been doing?
I've been doing all right. I moved. I'm now on this little 8-acre nice little plot of land down in Grandview, Texas, and get to see my grandson almost every day.
every day.
Isn't an 8-acre part of land expensive?
Yeah, the payments are pretty good, but not because of the land, but because of like interest rates on
And the house.
stuff. Yeah, and the house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, 8 acres is pretty big. Like, goddamn.
Yeah, but Texas is really big and nobody wants it because there's just nothing but rattlesnakes.
Yeah,
So what are you going to do with all that land? Build houses?
Property taxes aren't that high in this county yet. They've been going up every year, but not by much.
So what are you going to do with all that land? Are you going to build small houses there and rent them out? Because that's what I do.
Well, that's a possibility, but no, it's just a great place to raise a couple of grandkids, and maybe get a few livestock out here just to raise and let them graze and things like that. So it's just a good spot. It's essentially a multi-generational family plot now, and
Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Can I play another clip? Jay
I don't know,
Bundy?
but I can't see it.
You can't? Oh.
Oh, I mean, it's very small for me because I'm blind as a bat, but
I'll make it bigger. So this is Jay Bundy on Stephanie Helms last night. He said something.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there's a little kerfuffle going
Wait,
on.
does he say something about you?
No. He said something about creationists, which I think everybody should listen to. I thought it was pretty good and pretty profound. Let me, hopefully, Chris, can we hear you? Can you hear me? You're really...
A little bit, actually.
You're really weak. I'll turn you up as high as I can. Try again.
I'll just try to fix this crap and
Static.
Yeah, now we're getting some roomy noises or whatever. So
okay, because I'm by myself and
okay, you're okay now. Yeah, you're much better. But can we hang on a second while I play this clip by Jay Bundy?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Okay, hold on a minute.
It's hard for modern day debates to find somebody to defend Noah's Ark, to defend flat Earth. It's hard to have these conversations even across the atheist-theist debate, the right-left debate with the people we have on the internet. Why? Well, because most of the people who defend those positions are not really great people. Even they kind of hint at themselves when you look at the Venn diagram of how many of the overlap between the flat Earth and the anti-vax community. It's a pretty scary degree of overlap. But it's the same thing with all these issues. These people are fascist. I have the same struggle even in even in my field, right, of evolutionary biology, like the way my colleagues even are dismissive of creationists. And I'm sitting there going, I don't even care about the creationism anymore. The problem is these people are fascist, and they're using our field, our point, and say your field to do it. They're trying to use undermining evolution to do fascism, and you won't do anything about it.
That was it. I thought
It's
that.
frustrating, Jay.
I thought that was pretty good.
So should we? This is gonna sound like a stupid question or like an out there question, but should we just keep out all religious people from learning about science then? Because it seems to me what he was saying is that these religious people, infiltrate the sciences, learn about it, only to then try to undermine it. Is that right? Or was that like?
No, I think I think the point is that we have to keep fighting the fight. Basically, that we have to keep countering this bullshit science on everything. The
Right.
on everything. It's
Right, but if you
because these people are fascists. That's their whole fucking point. That's what they're interested in. They're interested in being right and taking over this United States.
Yes,
That's
I
what they're
got that.
interested in, right?
Yeah.
But they're going to
But
use
what-
science to do it.
Yeah,
But what I go ahead.
Go ahead.
well, one of the things that is the albatross of everything in the United States is absolute free speech, or the mentality of absolute free speech.
Yeah.
In a way, because as you know, I'm Canadian, and technically, like, you cannot do you cannot put stuff that is either misleading or at least the traditional zeitgeist opinion is that you cannot put hateful speech, you cannot put disinformation willy-nilly as you want, and stuff like that type of stuff. So, and again, because we have guardrails in the system, and that's one of the things that the U.S. doesn't have, or whatever.
Yeah, and as an American, that kind of bothers me a little bit when Canada does that, but I think it's applied very, very carefully, and I don't know if we'd ever get away with that here, if we could or should. I don't know if we should get away with that here, but I guess I don't know. It's a tough one.
Too entrenched. It's too entrenched to get rid of it. It's like
Right.
pass sale for
It's like guns. Yeah, it's like guns. Right.
Well, it's like I could tell you like common sense of how gun control and how to gun ethics or works up here, but it's like you'll get those gun nuts would say, "Oh, you want to take our guns?" Sorry for the old dramatization, but it's everything that I get. Even I've been trying. Like I've talked to I think he's an independent conservative, but he's whack. Anyway, and I basically told him like, okay, like you're against the quote unquote leftist, when I kind of tried to correct him that it's not like your idea of leftism, because he was basically shitting on Cornell West. Anyway, that's the background. But he was like, look, what you think as what's at the left is actually like for the rest of the world, it's actually center left, even center right. Like for the rest of the world, it's like common sense to have like I'm not gonna spell the universal healthcare, but at least to have a healthcare system, to have banking laws, stuff like that. Like most of the shit that you call socialism, like in air quotes, it's like The rest of the world, developed world, does it. So why are you bitching about that? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Guys, I have to step away for a minute. Scott, I have to make a phone call about my appointment tomorrow. I just got a phone call. Can you be
Okay.
here? Okay, give me 5 minutes.
All right. Let's all count from. Did you say 5 minutes?
5 minutes, yeah. Yeah. If I'm late, just bounce me out of the studio.
Let's all count down backwards from 300 at the same time. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, all these. I think Gurmania, who's in the side chat today, for which we are grateful, says it right. People need to be able to say what they want to say, but if they get in trouble, called out, fired, etc., that's on them. The whole idea of free speech has never been that it's absolute free speech, but if there's a consequence for your free speech that you can maybe you can show harm for. For instance, the old yelling fire in a crowded theater trope. You get trampled, lose the loss of one leg or something in the trampling. You can sue whoever called out fire when it wasn't really a fire, to receive compensation for those injuries. You might be able to sue the movie theater for not having a proper escape plan in case of emergency. But then, as soon as people start suing for their rights, people complain about how there's too many damn lawsuits clogging up the system. So it just seems like governance is a messy, messy thing. And it's easy, just very easy, to give away those rights when some strong leader comes along and says, hey, I'll take care of everything for you. It'll be like paradise when I take over. It's just too much political correctness, blah, blah, blah. And then you have fascism, and nobody has any rights unless you win favor with the fascist leader government.
Yeah, or you got it on the flip side, is that conservatives are just so scared of not implementing like quote unquote socialist policies because they don't even know better. It's like me with and I've basically used this story over and over again, but due to the fact that I have cerebral palsy, my mother was able to raise 3 kids, have her own business, and take care of me properly with all the appointments and medical appointments and having days off, blah, blah, blah. She did all that on her own as a single mother. Granted, I had my grandparents, but she was able to do all that, and that was due to having mechanisms that would alleviate stuff that would be a burden otherwise in her life to do that. So anyway, but actually, Midnight, you're kind of quiet. Did you want to say something or what? Okay, but
I'm back.
Yeah, but the point I was making earlier about the Bernardo, sorry. Anyway, is that the only way I can think about through third person overview is, like I said, how blind people see the world is that they basically map out map out their environment, and with experience, knowledge, or whatever, and to navigate around. Or even, like I said, with me, that I basically like like that I basically have to use my system, my know-how to basically navigate the world. And like as for me, it's basically from going to point A to point B. I have to figure out how um, I can quote unquote travel without falling or without exhausting too much energy as much as possible. You know, but and stuff like that. I don't know if that answers your question of what I was trying to say, Scott, or
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble with your audio, so I'm still having trouble parsing. And I just got back, so I kind of missed some stuff.
what about you, Scott?
Can you unpack, Scott?
I was having trouble hearing too, Chris. Honest.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry. plus, I was reading the side chats to
Yeah, sorry.
see what else people had to say.
All right. So just see if you understand me.
Okay.
Okay. So what I was talking about earlier is how people, it's like blind people, map their surroundings while navigating,
Right.
navigating
Right.
around. And as for me, from going to point A to point B, I have to figure out how can I go that distance without falling or wasting too much energy to just go to travel within those 2 points.
Yeah.
And I have to do this every single minute of every day. That type of thing when I have to, when I get up in the morning, take a shower, dressed up, or even go outside or whatever. Like every single time. And that's one of the things that I have to basically map out how I can figure this out. And if I am in what I call basically like almost like a movement crisis where let's just say I'm outside and there's multiple obstacles, I have to basically figure out how I trudge, like I tread those different obstacles,
Yeah.
and have to trial and error, just figure out what works and what doesn't. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and over time, your brain will change to adapt to some of that difference in navigation, just like a blind person would.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of, you've got all the mechanisms basically. There are mechanisms in sort of at the core of your brain for mapping things, for mapping out systems, and you can hook that. Like people have used clicking and echolocation to get around and navigate.
Yeah.
And I believe we got Jay here. Yeah. Anyway, so the brain is remarkable in rewiring, and I get my point of irritation was that Bernardo Kastrup used some really good articles about psilocybin and the brain, and about the brain and entropy, and he took away this bizarre, goddamn universal mind concept from it, and I don't like it. Jay, is that you?
No, this is somebody totally different.
Oh, totally.
That's Hillary's email.
That's Hillary's laptop, right? Okay, yeah, okay. Or I don't know what the fuck it is.
No, Hillary's emails.
Okay.
Hunter's laptop is Jay Bundy.
Hunter. Okay,
I know it's all so confusing. We all have all these pseudonyms.
Yeah, let's just use our fucking names, man.
Well,
Anyway, what's up? What's up in your world? What do you think? What do you think of all this?
Well, I was catching up from the beginning and listening for a while, and then I joined the live to hear what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
So, to go back to the beginning, I don't think that we do have to have physical brains, and just because we have only observed physical brains and neurons doesn't mean that that's all that could exist. Because if we had a quantum computer, that wouldn't necessarily have to have a wire connected circuit,
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're making a lot of assumptions making those claims.
Okay, like what claim exactly?
That The brains have to be physical.
Oh, yeah, but what would they be if they weren't physical? I mean,
I don't know.
if you have a quantum computer or you have an AI, you still got physicality there. There's something,
Right.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, we could have multiple mediums. I truly believe that if we approach it in the right way, we can create a conscious AI, and
Uh-huh.
we can do this within the next 30 years, maybe the next 20. But we're going to have to do certain things in order to get it conscious like us. We're going to have to give it a body, and we're going to have to give it some of the same brain systems that we have before we're going to think it's conscious.
Right, but that has more to do with our interoperability with it. But let's say that maybe plasma is conscious. Maybe all the stars are.
It could be, yeah. Yeah, there could
That,
be
that
other.
we would have no way of communicating with them, and they wouldn't have any way of understanding what we were trying to say.
Right, because it would be so bizarre and different. And
Yep.
basically, what our consciousness is we're an organism. We're embedded in the world. We're interconnected with the world by millions and millions of little points. And we are a process in time, and that is what our mind is. And that's how you explain the brain with physics. But in order to explain like what's happening in my brain right now with physics, you would have to write a description that would reach to the goddamn moon. Just to explain the physicality of just my brain interacting in my room right now would take a lot of writing, right? But that's what's happening. We are a process of physical stuff in time, across time, and that unbelievably gave us this feeling of being us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on the structure of our brain, the structure of our bodies, and it's also very heavily based on the physicality of the world around us and how we interface with that physicality. And we do that in a space-time sort of way. There's a Cartesian coordinate system that basically is a simple way of understanding space, time, and matter and things inside of it. And we can fully explain our experience with basically neuroscience and that model. And people keep claiming that we don't know what consciousness is. Fuck, we don't. We just don't believe that what we found is what it is. So we're having an intuitive problem. We have the hard problem of intuition. And when you study neuroscience, like in a very detailed manner, and you start correlating that with what happens in your mind, you start to become a believer in the physicality of brains. And I'm a total believer in that because I've spent 15 years on that particular project.
But in a way, is that it's like math, basically. It's basically because we're using tools and language to basically create a system that explains like our outside world that cannot be basically that is beyond the capability of us using our senses. Like I kind of explained that it like the people like 3D, sorry, 2D people in a 3-dimensional world
Yeah.
cannot basically just understand fully the what a 3D object is because it doesn't interact with 3D objects. All it can see is lines and just one huge matter of stuff. Anyway, so basically use those physics to explain
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
The approach I take is I look at the development of our minds and our brains, right, from the time we were zygotes, and particularly the first 3 months of our life where we interact with 3D space and time, or we interact with reality and the model we come up with, the relationship between you as an organism and that world around you basically creates this 3D relationship or this 3D modeling relationship, and we find out what objects are, and that when there's an object facing me, there's a side facing away from me, there's a top and a bottom and whatever, and we developmentally acquire that knowledge. That knowledge does not develop in the brain by thinking, or nothing special or magical in the brain. It is developed by the reality of the physicality around us, what we are embedded in. The reality we are embedded in carves the reality of our minds. And by the time we're adults, we're pretty goddamn good at walking through the forest. You know, we can walk up hills and walk around rocks. We can even catch a bird.
Yep.
So anyway, that's my approach to it. And you know, I do not have a hard problem of consciousness. It just makes complete sense to me, and I don't know how to convey that to another person.
But the only explanation I could come up with Fernando his theory.
Bernardo, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. His ultimate goal is to explain why do we need like subservience to a god via like
Yeah.
anything, but it's just like scientific matter. That's why we're quote unquote dependent of this entity that we're supposed to and how you kind of explain the not consciousness, but it's written in your heart, blah blah blah, that type of bullshit. And anyhow, that's
he's more of a kumbaya kind of humanist because he believes in the universal consciousness, and he is so smitten with this idea that he believes that he can change the way the human race interacts with each other by believing in this idea. Well, in a lot of ways, his idea has been done in Buddhism 3,000-4,000 years ago. So there you go. I mean, if you want that kind of humanism, all you have to look is to Buddhism and Hinduism, and you'll end up with the same place. So I don't know what he's doing, but of course, he wants his name on this new world idea, right? He's kind of like Trump.
Yeah,
which is a pretty horseshit comparison. I'm sure that would be
Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, well, yeah, Deepak. Oh my God. Anyway, still having a terrible time hearing your audio, Chris.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So, I wanted to bring something up just because I wanted it on the stream, but I just found out. I don't know why it wasn't bigger news than it is. And I'm sorry for bringing this up to y'all, but somebody, for the second time this year, a trans person was murdered in Minneapolis, and I think it was a hate crime, basically. And that happened on November 29th. And so this shit is real. There are assholes out there killing people. So there you go. Just leave it at that. Oh yeah,
we're really shitty herd animals. No question about that.
Her name was Savannah Ryan Williams, and she was killed on November 29th by a man named Damarian Bible. His last name is fucking Bible. What?
Wow.
And he is charged with second-degree murder, and they're saying he should be charged with a hate crime, and it kind of sounds like he should. But there you go. Fucking shit keeps happening. I linked that in my description also. So, another point is my son sent me this, and this is a new news network that's based on AI. Channel 1 gives users a new, more personal way to watch the news. And I don't know what personal means. I hope they don't tailor it to the right or the left. But anyway, they generate all of this with AI.
Well, they're going to tailor it to whatever gets them the most clicks or downloads or whatever.
I got to sign up for this. So let's see what We could watch a little bit of it.
Everything you'll see on Channel 1 relies on trusted sources and fact-checking, and uses AI to give you news the way you want it, personalized, localized, and distilled. Through it all, our mission is to provide you with accurate, unbiased, and trustworthy news. Technology may be the tool, but journalism's core values of integrity and accountability are at the heart of everything we do.
Today, we're going to show off some of the technology we're using to build Channel 1. We'll show you how AI powers and empowers our newsroom to deliver journalism that's fast, trustworthy, and accurate. Let's start with our reporters. You can hear us and see our lips moving, but no one was recorded saying what we're all saying. I'm powered by sophisticated systems behind the scenes, and I can speak in any language. Για παράδειγμα, αυτή τη στιγμή μιλάω στα ελληνικά. O kung pinapanood mo ako mula sa main...
Anyway, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to link that in the description. That's something new that apparently just came out. And
But that's like, sorry, that's like Deus Ex.
Ex Machina?
Well, yeah, Deus Ex Machina, but the basically like human revolution and mankind divided type of shit. Anyway, so because one of the news anchors is actually like a generated AI that
Yeah.
just like anyway. So
yeah, and it's really hard to tell. You can't tell anymore. I mean, it's gotten quite good. Now, you know, there's going to be complaints that it's biased, but the thing is that like ChatGPT reads the entire internet, and I don't know how they would bias it. Basically, with a large language model, they would have to work very hard to make it biased. So I don't know. There's a lot of controversy going on right now about all of that, but
Still, there would be a way for somebody to cause it to lean left or right. Just because they say it's a free AI doesn't necessarily mean that it's not been influenced or hacked or something in some way.
right. But with a large language model, in order to influence it one way or the other, you would need an AI that was far greater than it. A human being couldn't manage that large language model and get it to only spit out one side or the other. It would have to spit out the totality of what it finds.
Well,
I don't know how they would pull that off. The only way they could pull that off is by putting a human in between you and the AI and editing everything, going one way or the other, or feeding it only liberal sources or only conservative sources. And that isn't, to the best of my knowledge, they're picking up all the sources. So I don't know. But all I get is liberal responses from ChatGPT. If I ask it about physicalism, it will kind of like come in favor of physicalism most of the time, but it will talk about the other arguments. You know, it'll list them, but in the summary, it kind of says, well, physicalism is pretty much accepted by almost everybody. So it's giving you the consensus too, whatever the consensus is out there. But Scott, I don't know how they would manage that. It would take a great deal of computation. It would take a great deal of computer power in order to bias it one way or the other. So I'm not sure how you would do it.
Well, it's whatever sources it's coming from.
Yeah, if they limited the sources to, but then somebody would have to handpick those sources, and this thing is digesting data by the terabyte. Who in the hell's going to pay for human beings to handpick the sources for it? I mean, who is going to? I suppose Google could do that.
They'd have to have some sort of council of editors to step in and make sure that, because AI is being caught giving out fake information several times now, and then when it's confronted on it, it's like, I'm sorry, I misled you. Well, okay.
Yeah, it makes stuff up if it, basically it'll make a guess at stuff if it doesn't have the information.
Or it'll look at a source believing it because it doesn't have critical thinking and just cite it. And then when you point out that you got it to cite another source to contradict the first one, it doesn't know which is correct. So it'll just say, I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah, it gives you both sides. If you ask it, it'll give you both sides.
yeah,
Mhm.
but there's also like what information comes like first. Like, say if you put the like conservative position first, and then the liberal, or quote unquote liberal or progressive or whatever you want to call it, opinion, then, or just switch it up. So I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Okay, I just asked it to give me some good arguments against physicalism, and it's listing them. So it's not bullshitting me. Intentionality and mental states, aboutness, hard problem of consciousness, knowledge argument, Mary's room, free will and determinism, and it just lists them out. I don't see where it's biased. It's giving me information, and it gives me information that I can use because it gives me both sides. I think. I don't know.
I
Quantum
don't want to speak.
mechanics, huh?
I don't want to speak for real Cygnus and myself, but I think that from what he's saying in the side chat, he and I are both at root idealists, but functionally physicalists. We all think that all the abstract concepts express themselves physically, and so functionally we are physicalists. You know what I'm saying?
Who are you talking about in side chat?
Real Cygnus.
Oh, real Cygnus. Oh, okay. Oh, I have
Cygnus like the Cygnus gyre.
Yeah. Okay. Just a matter of training data. Let's see. I'm not sure
He had
where
said it further up when you were
further
away.
up.
He had said some stuff about. So I'm just guessing. It's nothing he said recently. But I'm just saying we might be the only two idealists.
Yeah.
But what his statement was is that he doesn't think that most I don't know how to say it politely, but most idealists that kind of have their minds together aren't denying physicalism. They're just saying that there may be a step above that we can't access.
Right. Right. So what is that step exactly? What is that stuff out there that is the idea? What is the base stuff or substance or
Well,
content that's creating all of this physical universe?
we may never have access to it. I can hypothesize about a grand unifying theory,
Okay.
but we haven't found it yet.
Okay, but how are we going to find it?
As biological entities, we may not be capable of finding it. We may
Okay,
just
so
have to accept that we'll never know and be okay with it and say, but what we do know is physicalism, and so let's focus on that and not worry about the stuff beyond that.
okay, but then that just makes you a physicalist because
That's what I'm
physicalists.
saying. Functionally, I think that he and I, even though at root we're idealists, functionally we are still physicalists.
Yeah. Yeah, because physicalism just stops there and says, okay, when you're talking about metaphysics or you're going beyond, you're reaching outside of what you can empirically verify and what presents itself to us. And because you're reaching outside of it, you can make up anything you want. The problem is underdetermination. That is the problem with those kind of metaphysical theories.
Right.
Your theory is underdetermined. It can be this, it could be that, it could be what Bernardo says, it could be a brain in a vat, it could be a number of different things. And that is the underdeterminism problem. So the physicalists will say, okay, what we know is we have this physical reality, just accept it on its face, on its surface, as being what there is. When we talk about reality, we talk about reality with a lowercase r, not an uppercase R, because we can't reach beyond that.
Right.
Now, as a dyed-in-the-wool physicalist, I will say that when we do find something outside of this particular Cartesian space-time physicalism, it's going to just be more physics. It's going to be another physical theory that we can also call physicalism. We're not going to find anything relating to our minds out there at all. We're not going to find mind stuff deep in physics. That's what I would claim as a physicalist.
Well, I think that there's probably an equation out there that is that grand unified theory. And if there is a God, that's what I would call the God.
I'd go along with that. Whatever in the hell that base substance is, whatever the cosmos is, I will call God myself.
Yeah.
I go to AA meetings and they use the God word all the time, and every time I see it, I change it to cosmos. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
That's
only
fine.
the only way I could see, like, say, when we're gonna have like metaphysically, um, metaphysically able to read minds and stuff like that, or even sort of well, if we go the cyberpunk, well, depending on who you're talking to, the 2020 or 27, cyberpunk 27 route, where basically there's no, well, yes, there's monitors and there's computers, but it's actually like part of us could use implants directly using our brains and jacking in the internet and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how I see this kind of working, kind of, but we're way.
Yeah, I can't wait to get ChatGPT installed in my brain.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be right there at the front of the line, waiting at the Apple Store, early, like 5 days in advance for the iBrain. I want the fucking iBrain.
So you, Bernardo fans out there, check out Cyberpunk 2077. So yeah,
Cyberpunk what?
77. It's the video game that just kind of came out a couple of years ago,
Oh, okay.
and it's basically, like I said, it's where future where corporate future, corporate rule future, where essentially we as humans use implants to be better, I guess, or whatever. But anyhow, you just could kind of take a look at an article about like what's
Yeah, my son is probably tell me all about it.
because it's like I'm gonna be like we're gonna be here for like 45 minutes and 3 hours maybe if I explain this all to you. Oh, you'll old timers right now. So
We're not going to be here all that long.
that's what I'm saying. So
We're not going to be here that long.
but yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to, I'm searching for Bernardo Kastrup's solid arguments, and I'm trying to weed through a whole lot of references and a whole lot of jargon that he uses, and that's what Mandible really drives Mandible nuts, is that he cloaks the most simplistic arguments in a whole lot of his education in philosophy, right? And I call that a philosophy-weenie. Basically doing that sort of stuff, not talking simply and presenting a very clear, powerful argument. So far, I haven't found anything from Bernardo, but I keep looking because, and Scott, you know how hard it has been on me. You know, it's affected my health. It ruined my gallbladder. I have to go tomorrow.
That's right. He's having his gallbladder removed because of Bernardo Kastrup.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah, the bile, like when I started reading, I started reading Bernardo about a month and a half ago. And about 3 weeks ago, I had my first gallbladder attack because the bile had built up in me. And it's Bernardo all the way down.
You got to have your humors regularly drained.
I know, my humors must be drained. Well, we're going to drain them tomorrow, and we're going to try to get. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to say, okay, if you find Bernardo in there, cut him out. Cut him out.
Maybe your sons will give you some leeches for Christmas.
Yeah.
Hey,
A nice daily leeching.
I might die tomorrow under anesthesia. It happens to people, and I will be 26,640 days old if I do. So, and if I do, I'm going to be laughing all the way down. So I want you to know that. So who knows?
Well, have confidence knowing that you'll still be an ideal floating in the ether.
Oh, right. Yeah. I'll wake up and it's like, oh, fuck, Bernardo was right. and that'll really fuck me up, man. Worse than anything. Anyway. Okay. I don't know. I kind of want to get out of here. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, see you on the other side.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe the other side. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be out for a day anyway, or two. Well, we haven't been doing much lately. We got to do better. We got to do better, Scott. What do you think?
We do. We do.
Okay, shooter in the head.
Let's go ahead and shoot her in the head. I just want to say goodbye, everybody. It's been great interacting with you.
Oh, I gotta put this up. Purple rhymes with orange. They drain your humors. Doesn't mean you won't get jokes.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That is a good joke, but I won't get it the day after tomorrow, after my humors are drained. Okay, goodbye, cruel world.
Goodbye.